let's head to the goals of therapy. When you decide to have a therapy session and you approach a therapist, it's very important that you have a goal in mind. Like, what do you hope to achieve with therapy? Are you hoping to be able to grieve? If you're dealing with loss and you're approaching a therapist, are you hoping to learn about your grief, understand it, understand how it manifests? Are you hoping that it will not, once you go through the therapy sessions, that you will be able to cope with life and it won't hinder your daily functioning? If it's with regards to wellness, are you hoping that the workshops that you'll attend or the sessions that you'll have will give you coping mechanisms that will enable you to function better whenever you're stressed or whenever you encounter something that is an emotion that is overwhelming? Will you be able to dispel it or discharge it without it taking too much of your time and energy? So these are all clear goals that you need when you're approaching a therapist, so that at the end of the session, we'll be able to know as a therapist, as a practitioner, that this job has worked, that this session has worked, that the coping strategies that have been employed have worked. And if they haven't, then it's time to revisit the board and employ new ones. I hope I haven't left anyone anywhere and we're on the same boat. Okay, so we've talked about goals in therapy and we've talked about everyone's roles. Now let's talk about expectations. And I think I mentioned this before in a previous video. There are quite a lot of videos. Please be sure to get in there and have a look. When we talked about expectations, there are different expectations when it comes to therapy. One which is that your therapist will solve all your problems. Let me just dispel that myth for you 100%. Your therapist is new to you. They don't know anything about you, and there's not enough time in the world to get to know all of you based on your years of experience, because there's so much about you that has happened in your life that cannot fit into an hour's session. Now, I talk about an hour session because that's the normal time which a session can be held. Now, depending on your agreement with your therapist, you can extend it or you can reduce it, but the regular time for a session is usually an hour. Now, for an hour, depending on your agreement, it's either pro bono or you pay a fee per hour. And every minute plus, there are some practitioners who charge per the minute. So yes, your therapist cannot solve all of your problems. If anything, your therapist is like a lighthouse. If you don't know what a lighthouse is, please make Google your friend. So a therapist is a lighthouse. This is me using figurative language. A therapist is a lighthouse, and what they do is they help you kind of mulika different segments that you could not be aware of by asking questions, by being a sounding board. A sounding board is, how do I say this? I don't know if you know what an echo is, but sometimes when you go to a place that's quite large and you speak loudly, you kind of hear your words bounce back at you. And that's what a therapist is. A therapist is not there to give you advice. A therapist is just there to give you the time and space to hear yourself as you speak and sort of to hold you accountable to it. And they have tools that will help you unearth certain fields of thought that you haven't experienced. There are role plays in place to help you see different perspectives, and there are techniques and strategies to help you dispel overwhelming emotions. But they're not there to give you advice, and they're definitely not there to solve all of your life's issues. If anything, they're just there to show you that you are the engineer of your own life and brain, right? Because it's wellness altogether. So they're returning the power back to you by giving you strategies to employ to solve the problems within your vicinity. Okay, expectations. Aside from that, there's none that come to mind, but feel free to go to our previous video I am pretty sure there's like a lot. And a lot of these are tied in with the myths and misconceptions about mental health and therapy. So please be sure to visit that video so you can have more insight into what those goals are. But when it comes to therapy, your therapist will ask you what your expectations of therapy are. And if you have those expectations, please be sure to discuss them with your therapist and allow them the space to decide or to clear up any miscommunication or any myths that they feel they do not employ. Okay, so let's talk about selecting your therapist. When it comes to selecting your therapist, there are several areas that you should consider. Now, I talked about like the different types of mental health practitioners, going from the diploma level, which are the counselors or the counseling psychologists, depending on the institution. Then there's the degree holders, and then there are the master's holders and the PhD psychiatrist and the like, with the big doctor in front of their names. And when it comes to these types of titles, there are areas of specialization, and this is specifically with regards to master's and PhD. So you'll find that before you get down with your therapist, you feel free to ask them what they studied, what they specialized in, how long they've practiced, and what's their field of practice. Do they work with children? Is the area of focus towards mental health conditions like depression and anxiety? Are they more focused towards wellness? Are they more focused towards psychological assessments and the like? So it's very important that you have an understanding. Are they more generalized, meaning they cater to all those fields, but to a limited degree? So these are all questions that you as the client should feel free to ask as you're sourcing for a therapist. Something else that you feel like you should do is to look at their certification. Now, there are different certifying bodies. In Kenya, there's the Counselors and Psychologists Boards, CMP, and there's also the Kenya Counseling and Psychologists Board, just to name a few. And there are also some religious ones. There's one for the Catholics, I think. I'm not sure about the name, so I will refrain from besmirching the name. Now, when it comes to selecting a therapist, it's very important that you think about what it is you're comfortable with. When it comes to therapy, it's very vulnerable. It's very safe. Now, you can imagine selecting a bestie, if I can use that. Not just anyone is going to be your bestie at the end of the day. You need to feel like you can trust this person. So when it comes to therapy, it's important that you choose someone with who your values will align. If you are someone who is more towards the religious point of view, let's say, for example, if you're a Muslim, or if you're a devout Catholic or Protestant, or Buddhist, then it's very important that you look for a therapist who also is in line with this religious beliefs, so that they can give you the safe space and the understanding that you need within the boundaries of the religion that is within the selected religion, right? And if you are not religious, then it's very important that you select someone who can understand your non-religious views. Okay, if you're more comfortable speaking to a woman to woman, then select a female therapist. If you're more comfortable speaking to a man, if you feel like a man can understand your views as a man, then select a man who is a therapist. Because in this day and age, there are so many therapists and psychologists, quite a lot. If you feel like you are someone who is older and you need someone who is older to speak to, then reach out to someone who is elder, or ask if they have someone who is older. Or you can even ask the age of your therapist, because you're well within your right as a client to say, I'm really looking for someone who is within this age range because I feel like they'd be more relatable. Or I'm looking towards someone who is a little bit older who can understand my experiences as someone who is older, right? And if you're looking for, as a parent, you're looking for a therapist for your child, then it would make much more sense for you to look for someone who is more qualified in the field of child psychology. So feel free to ask all of these questions with regards to like experience, And if you're not comfortable, you can also ask for a referral. That is, you can ask your therapist to refer someone or people who they feel are more experienced with regards to what it is that you're looking for. Right. So we've talked about, as you can see, therapy is quite extensive, right? So I would like to urge you, with all that in mind, to really think about what it is that you hope to obtain from therapy. If you are looking towards healing childhood wounds, then look for a therapist whose approaches or the techniques they use are more focused towards dealing with childhood issues. If you are looking to have or sort a lot of issues altogether, you can look for a therapist whose approaches cover a lot of issues altogether. So feel free to ask what approaches they use, what techniques they use, how often they do what they do, their experiences altogether, because at the end of the day, this is a space that they and you are creating together for your benefit, right? And hopefully you can grow together, because the therapist is learning you and from this interaction. Another thing is to just remind you that therapists are people just like you. Do not put them on pedestals, because it is a learning experience for both the therapist and for you as the client. Remember, therapy is a space that can end at any time, meaning if you don't feel comfortable, you are free to end the therapy session at any one point. Please feel free to communicate to the therapist why that is. Remember, this is a space for your benefit. If the therapist is able to fix whatever issue that is causing you to feel a certain way about not continuing the session, then it's an opportunity to build from there and go forward. But if it isn't, then it is what it is at the end of the day. Yes, and I feel like that concludes our session for today. I'd like to really urge you to take an opportunity, try out a therapy session. You never know how it could go. Of course, there's like the intake session before the actual session, and that intake session does involve taking down your details. It's basically like you've gone to hospitals, because we need a basic understanding of who you are and who to reach out to in case of anything. Don't be weirded out. It's a normal part of the process. Ethically, it's what is expected. But if you can move past the intake process and actually try a therapy session and make it towards the 10th or the 20th session while investing in yourself, you'd be so surprised at how far investing in yourself can take you. Remember that you are the driver in your own life. And while you're working hard to build other people's opportunities and build other relationships, don't forget to build yourself, because you truly matter. Now, if you would like to see more of me, please feel free to reach out to Nafsi Wellness on my socials and get in touch with any of our therapists or join any of our workshops. Our details will be on our social media. Now, until the next time, please reach out to a therapist and remember to keep your wellness as a top priority. See you in the next episode. Bye.